Hi, I'm Julia and this is my shed. So if you remember from the previous video, we made the pump bodies and plungers, which are all working quite nicely. As you can see, we've got lots of other parts from the kit, so the only bits we need to make are these two bodies. So because I split the last week's video into two, these are obviously already completed, but what we're going to show you in today's video is actually making these bodies. So it's quite a bit of work goes into those. Hopefully you'll find it interesting. So with that, I'll leave you to what I did last week. So the next job is to we need to make a outer casing. So I've got some brass bar, which is just the right size, so we just need to straighten up the edges on that. So I think we'll start there, and then we'll cut up the brass box section we've got. So off to the mill. And just as an experiment, we're quite securely mounted in the vise, so I'm just wondering if I can use the full height of this cutter to just actually shave off. You know, I won't come in do a very big infeed, but I'm just wondering if I can actually machine the whole piece like that. Just wondering how quick that would be. So yeah, we'll give that a go, I think. So I'll just try 1/2 mil at a time, see how that goes. We've got quite a bit to take off this. Oops, wrong way. Try that. It seems to be working, so we'll try that. I think we've got full height there, so I'll just come in a little bit more. This is a finishing cut. Yeah, that's come out really well, actually. I think we've got a good finish on there. So yeah, that's quite quick then. That's another useful tool in the toolbox. So I've just scribed a line at 1 inch from both ends, so we'll get that on the bandsaw now. So we've got the two pieces in the vise now, and we're just going to clean this edge up, and then I'll measure the height and just see if we need to take any more off. So this is set to the height I actually need. We've still got quite a bit of a gap there, so we'll go down another 1/2 mil and we'll see how we get on. Yep, just check these with the calipers. Close enough, 20 thou. It's not super critical. So next job is to square up the ends of the box. So here's a little tip for you. You just use a permanent marker, because this is all saw cut. If you make sure everything's got some permanent marker on, you know, if you can still see black, you haven't got it all level. So I've measured off each end again, so off to the bandsaw, and we'll cut the two ends off. So we've got these cut off roughly to size. We'll use the pen trick again because my bandsaw doesn't cut that evenly. Well, it cuts it a bit, it just does cut at a bit of an angle vertically. So we'll just know that we've got because the actual height of these isn't super critical. Right, so we're pretty much down to the line there. So this isn't critical, the height of these, so that's good enough for me. There you go. Just see the line there. So could have taken off another 0.1 or 0.2 of a mil, but I don't think that's necessary. Okay, so we've got the two parts needed for the body. So just as a reminder, they need to be the same size as this part. So not far off, I think. I've used a slight, as you can see, I've used a slightly thicker base piece there. What I haven't done is this boss. So it's quite good for this boss to be nicely aligned with that axis. So what I'm going to do is silver solder these together first, and then once these are a complete unit, I can then put that in the vise and drill the hole for the boss, because the boss will have a slight shoulder on it, and then I can turn it upside down and then drill these holes as well. It's just going to be easier to hold something like that in the vise rather than a flat piece. So I'm just sort of modifying my sort of order of operations just to make things easy, really. I think that's the sort of thing that you tend to pick up as you go along. I mean, been working on this sort of solidly for a year now, and I think my mill skills are definitely improving. So anyway, so the next thing to do is to put, I mean, these are quite clean, but these are fairly filthy, so we'll put them all in the acid bath for a little while, and then we'll do some silver soldering. So we've got the two parts clamped together. I've got lots of flux in the bottom, and I've got 4 what the jewellers call pallets of silver solder. I've got this quite chunky bar stuff that I use for this sort of thing. So hopefully that'll be enough, but I've got a bit more there if I need to. I'm going to try and heat from underneath here. So I'll try and film this, and we'll see how we get on. Well, that took a while. Not quite sure where all the heat was going. I think this has been stealing all the heat, I think. So I've obviously made a huge mistake with how I was clamping these. This one actually turned out okay, but the first one, I was getting it so hot I've melted this corner, and yet actually it's lifted here, it's leaking. You know, that it won't even hold water, never mind oil. So I'm going to reflux this, and then it seems to be okay on this side, so I'm just going to reflux this and see if I can get some silver solder in and rescue that part. Okay, so we've got them both done. This one's a little bit wibbly wobbly, but I think it'll work. If we use that side, that side's fairly reasonable. We're going to make in the lathe a boss like this, and it needs to go in here. What I'm going to do is when I make this boss, I shall put a little shoulder on it, and we'll drill a hole for that shoulder. So we'll do that now. So I've marked where I need to make these holes, and they're 26.6mm up from the base. So that basically gets us in line with this one. Obviously these are a bit shorter, but that doesn't matter. So okay, so we're going to make the bosses next. So I've got some nice aluminium bar here, so we'll just clean that up, and we'll get on with it. Okay. This is the outside face we're doing at the moment, so we'll put a nice chamfer on that so it looks nice. So next job is to do some drilling. Okay, 4.5mm drill, which is will be a clearance for the 4mm actuating shaft. Should be enough. We need a fairly decent 8mm hole with a flat bottom, so I'm going to use an 8mm end mill for that. See how we get on. It may or may not work. Okay, let's seem to machine quite nicely. Let's check the depth of the hole. So I need 7mm really, so I just need a couple more mil. Creep up on it, I think. Don't go too mad. It's not far away. Okay, so we'll just deburr the entrance to the hole. Just make it easier to push in the bearing. But I want a little bit of a shoulder, so I'll mark where 10.61 is first. Shoulder is 1.5mm, so if we come back to 9, that's going to be my shoulder, and I'm just going to check the sort of diameter there, because I want about 10mm. Another 0.5mm on that one. Back to 10.6. Okay, that's the first boss done. I've centre popped this and then used a wiggler to line up the axis with the centre pop. So we'll get this drilled. There we go, lovely. I'll do the other one and then we can braze these together. Okay, Okay, so we've fluxed up these up, and I'll just add the silver solder myself. So we're up to temperature. Okay, that looks a bit more successful. Perhaps I'm getting the hang of this now. I think we've got decent penetration. We've got a nice line around there, around here. It's not that even, but it'll certainly hold it in place. So that's, we'll call that job done, I think. I'll let those cool down. I'll pop them in the pickle bath for a bit. And we'll drill the holes in the bottom, and then it's time for assembly. So we've got the original Winson body that we can use as a reference for the mounting holes. So I've used a parallel to make a reference on that edge. I've got the drill upside down. It's a 3mm drill. As you can see, that goes in freely. So yeah, let's do the first hole. So while I'm drilling, I can drop it down a little bit so it's held a bit more securely. Okay, let's do the first hole then. Okay, so after a bit of messing around, I've got a couple of these brackets spare, so I'm going to use that as a drilling jig. I think that's going to be the easiest thing to do. Okay, so again, I've set this up using the vice jaws as a reference. This isn't super critical, but basically that's the tapping drill size, and that will go through as long as it's roughly in the middle. Well, actually it needs to be centered on that really, but there's no connection between the two, so this is one of those, it doesn't really matter that much. Not within a few mil probably. So I've tapped that 3/8 32 to match the pump body. You can see that, hopefully see that's quite central. That should work a treat. Got nice decent threads there. I'll just need to deburr the hole, and that's done. Okay, so that's these all done nicely. Just deburr the threaded section. So we've got all the parts now, hopefully. What I want to do now is do a trial assembly of these, and so I can measure how much the plunger moves up and down as I rotate the crank. So to do that, I think I'll pop you on time lapse. So just as an aside, the one-way clutches have an arrow on them and some writing. It's only on one side. I want these to be handed so that the operating lever works as it's being pulled. So if I make these, you know, so the clutches are in opposite directions. So on this one, the writing's visible. So on that one, I'd put the writing on the inside so you can't see it. So that, and again, the same on these. Although I've made these rods from 3mm steel, or 4mm, I think it's 4mm actually. Yeah, 4mm. So although I've made these rods from 4mm and they are quite rigid, we'll get, if it's sort of pushing, you can have because I want to put a crank in this anyway, a slight joggle, so they line up better. With that, it's going to be inclining. If you're pushing, it's liable to bend more, whereas I think a pull would be better. Sort of now I said that out loud, that doesn't sound so convincing, but that's what I'd like to do anyway. So we'll have them operating on the pull stroke. I'm hoping that just makes it more smoother. Maybe it doesn't make a difference. So if you've got any views on that, let me know in the comments. As I say, I always answer comments, so I'm always interested to hear what people have to say. I always read the comments. So yeah. Okay. Anyway, let me know what you think about that. Okay, so I've just assembled those, and we've got a few problems. So I'm just going to pop the commercial one back to the same state. Okay, so this is the commercial one. So what you can see is the spring is pushing this up, so it's quite near the top when it starts to push. So there's a little bit of, actually it's still under spring pressure when this is at top dead centre, this little crank. So it's in contact with the plunger all the time. So that works quite nicely. So I'm just going to... So on my one at the moment, as we come up to top dead centre, I don't know if you can see that, but there's quite a considerable gap. Yeah, so the problem I've got is unfortunately when I was clamping it in the milling vise, I was clamping here, and I'd forgotten that because this has been heated up, it's annealed. And as you can see, it's bent in, so we're actually touching the plunger there. I think I've got a similar problem on this side, so I need to figure out how to straighten this out without damaging it at all. So let me put my thinking cap on, and we'll see if we can fix that. So this is what I've come up with. I've got a 19mm square bit of square steel, and I've got this really lovely wedge drift. I don't know if you can see, it's got a very shallow angle on it. Very useful bit of kit, actually. I've got no idea where I got it from, but it's an excellent thing to have. I think it's quite tough. What I'm just going to do is just gently drive this in until I can't get it out again, and then I'll start swearing. Only kidding. Well, I say I'm only kidding. So I'm just going to drive this in. Oops. Drive this in until we're sort of flat again on this side, and we're certainly getting there. That's good. Let's try and get it centralised again. I think I've hit the bottom there, so oh gosh, yes, I've hit the bottom there. So now I need to just put in a bit of shim steel. I'll see what I can find. So one thing I learnt before I got my quick change tool post is you need quite a lot of shims for moving your lathe tool, adjusting your lathe tool height. And a cheap, well, fairly cheap source of shims is feeler gauges. So, I mean, these were £4.50, but you get loads of them. So the sort of thing you can sometimes pick up on the cheaper tool places. So quite handy that. So I'm just going to pop a couple of shims in, and then carry on as we were before. Let's see how we get on. Yeah, you can feel it getting more difficult as the brass work hardens, so you have to be a bit careful doing this. You don't want to fracture anything, but that's done. So yeah, if you can get your hands on one of these very narrow wedges, it's probably only maybe 5 degrees maximum, perhaps less than that. Obviously needs to be like tool steel or something like that, something quite tough. You don't want it too brittle though, otherwise it will just shatter. But you can see this has had plenty of use, and very handy piece of kit for, especially for like knocking bearings off shafts and things. So yeah, a couple of wedges like that get you out of trouble. So hopefully you could see that this one's working quite nicely. It's got plenty of clearance between the crank and the plunger. There is a bit of a gap still here, but it's not too bad. That might be acceptable. I need to check that. So that's good. So what I need to do now is to measure. Not sure if you can see the plunger going in and out. Whether that is uncovering the ports at the top of the stroke and it's coming down enough. So I think it is, but we just need to double check that. So for the bottom of the stroke, or sorry, the top of the strokes, which is where it's pulling fresh oil into the pump body. Hopefully you can see there's daylight there, and on both sides. So or torchlight at least. So the inlet side's fine on that one. We've got the same effect on this one. That's the top of the stroke, so you can see there's lots of light showing through there. It's possibly too much actually, so we might need to move the body up a little bit towards the cam. But we can compare that now with the this is the commercial one. So I'll measure the height of the plunger at its furthest most point. Actually, what we'll do is so, and again that's the commercial one, so you get a comparison. Always handy to have a torch in the workshop. So I haven't done this yet. So at the bottom of the stroke we've got 13. Let's compare that with these ones. That one's 15. And that one's 14. So these are probably both, the plunger's probably going up a little bit too much on both of these. So what I can do to adjust that is I can put a washer on the other side of this just to move this body down, well, upwards really. That's the top. Move it upwards so that we've got about the right amount of stroke, because I think what's this means is the plunger isn't actually going to come down enough. So this plunger comes down just under 5. This one's 6, so it's like a mil difference at least. And that one's 7, so that's 2 mil difference really. So I need a 2 mil washer underneath the pump body on this one, and I need a 1 mil washer underneath the body on this one, and then they should have the same pump stroke as the commercial one. So you're probably wondering where that discrepancies come from. Well, one thing I noticed when I was manufacturing, this is obviously a casting, and you know, I selected my brass to match the outside of the casting, but actually when you look inside, this area is thicker than this flange would suggest. So that's I had noticed that, so I was expecting to have to do this. So I'll see what see if I've got any ready-made washers. Otherwise we can go to the lathe and make up a quick washer. So I've found some M10 washers which might do the trick. They're 1.8 mil, which is sort of in between the two values I need. So I'll take these apart again, install the washers on the other side, and we'll see where we are. I've put those washers in, but they're obviously too big. When this one will go round, but the plunger's so far in the pump body it jams, so that's no good. Well, we'll check the height at least, so we can check that. The height is just, well, 0.2 mil too much. So that's that one. This one's totally jammed. So I'll just have a look at that. It may be because the bottom of this is a bit uneven. It's just a bit much. But we're not far from going over centre though, so it might be just a case of skimming a teeny bit off the pump body just to get that to work. So I'll look at doing that next. So the issue on the one that was jamming is that we've got quite a big radius of silver solder here. So what happens is when this gets pushed in, it actually jams. So I did notice that, and I did try using my deburring tool make that a bit better. I might just try doing that a bit more actually, just seeing if we can make enough of a chamfer in there. If not, I'll just have to shave a little bit off in the lathe, off the height. It's probably only like 1/4 mil or something, it's not much. Okay, so I figured out what the problem was with this one. The washer, I put a slightly thinner washer in, and I thought, oh, that's going to sort it. But the thinner washer is actually quite slightly bigger outside diameter, so it was actually catching on the sides of the walls, so it wasn't seating properly. So again, I'm not sure if you can really see, but let's see if we get the light on there. That's better, isn't it? I've just filed some flats on that washer so it sits in the bottom of the reservoir. So yeah, that works a lot better. And that goes all the way around without binding. So we've just got to this one's again has the same problem. It's just sticking at the bottom. So I might just put in a slightly thinner washer again, and we'll do that, and then that should be those done, and we can move on to the next thing. So after quite a bit of faffing around, I've got this one working really nice, but I got absolutely loads of problems with this one. If you remember, this is the one that the body deformed, and unfortunately what's happened is that the centre line of this doesn't match the centre line of this. It's too far. So this you can probably even see actually is that is too far over this side. You know, it should be, the centre of that should be about here, and what's happening is this crank thing is rolling off the edge of the plunger, or the head of the plunger. So it's okay going over, but when it gets to about here, it's actually rolling off the edge of the plunger, and it just jams. So I think what I've got to do is make a new body, unfortunately. So that's going to take a little while. So we're not going to get these finished this week, unfortunately. So I'll put that to one side for now. Just to resist the urge to throw it into next door's garden, really. Yeah, a bit frustrating. Never mind. So what I'll do is I'll finish assembling this so you can see it working, because we're nearly there, and I think we've got all the parts that we need. So let's do that and not get too upset. So the way that this goes together is you have the plunger all the way out, which is quite important. We've got spacers. As far as I can tell, the O-rings are this size, BS006, which is 1/8 by 1/16 O-rings. So the way this works is you put an O-ring in, put a spacer in. So if you remember, the thickness of the spacer determines how much volume of oil's pumped. So if you're finding you've got, or you're not getting enough oil, you can put a slightly thicker spacer in. So you pop those in, and you pop the second O-ring in. We've got this part already, and what that does is it just pops everything through. The spring goes in there. I need a 5/32 ball bearing. And we have a bag full of those. Always worth having 5/32 ball bearings in model engineering. Most things seem to use that size. So you can see we've got the ball bearing just sat on the O-ring. We've got a spring which will just spring load the ball. If I can get it in, and that's actually quite a lot of spring pressure. That is. I think it's the same size spring as the other, but yeah, it needs quite a lot of spring pressure there. Then obviously we've got the nut. Just tighten that up. And I've found another problem with what's provided in the kit. So this is the spring that comes, the spring on the right is what comes with the commercial kit, and the spring on the left is the one that came with the kit of parts that came with Britannia. So I don't know if you can spot that, but this spring is 2 or 3 mil longer. I'm not sure if I think it's the same spring rate, but that extra 2 or 3 mil has made puts too much pressure on the ball, and the plunger can't actually go all the way down. It's just locked up solid. So I need to shorten these springs by a fair amount. Pop the ball in. Pop that in. Yeah, that's more like it. Okay, so one problem I found I did have is that as I was screwing this nut on, I was actually unscrewing the pump body and pushing it upwards. That's why it was jamming. So as you can see now, we've actually got quite a bit of clearance here. Now that may be a problem when we come to actually fit it to the loco, so I'm just going to attach this for now. But you can see that's working. So let's see if we can actually get this on the loco now. So it's very, very tight, but I think that will actually work like that. All the bolt holes here line up, and we're just clearing the slide bar there. Yeah, there's literally like 1 millimetre in it. So if I can get the outlet to sort of sit somewhere like there, I think we're onto a winner. So yeah, quite pleased with that. Just come out a little bit more so you can actually see what's going on. So I just need to bend this pipe to meet this union here, but I think that's not a problem. And I just, that's pumping fine like that. So I think what I'll have to do is the right angled union that screws onto the bottom, it sits up hard onto the threaded section, so I don't think any oil can actually get through there. So once I've finalised the position, I will just have to drill a hole from this, where the oil pipe goes, into that union, so there's a passageway for the oil to come through. Yeah, but apart from that, I think that's a success. I need to do some remedial work on the other one to move the centre over. So I'll probably end up damaging the clutch that I've put in on that one. So a friend, John Bagley, check out his website. He's got some very interesting model engineer stuff. But John's kindly offered me a couple of clutches to get the other one working okay. So yeah, I think we'll leave it there. This is quite a long video anyway. So I'll have to spend a bit of time fixing the other one, which is a little bit of a shame, but you know, this is all this stuff is stuff I'm doing for the first time, so it's just one of those things. So yeah, please leave a comment, like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.